let's get stuck into this week, starting the 4th of July. Very important day in America. So to kick off the week, we've got our time under tension weightlifting work.
Yeah.
Important point to get across straight off the bat is that complex is 8 reps long.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this week, haven't we? How have you found these longer complexes to begin with? And what would your advice be when coaching and to members that may be doing it as well?
Yeah, you've got to stay in the game. It's a long way from rep number 1 into that final snatch. We've got a low enough percentage for everyone to get stuck into, but ultimately the things that I would be talking to the group about would be to take each rep as it comes. Now, we've got 3 different variations that we're working through. We've got a snatch deadlift, where the focus here is just looking for the line of the bar coming off the floor. We've got a pause at the kneecap, and then making sure that when we're at the top of our snatch deadlift, we have a small bend in the knees, shoulders are still over the top of the bar, life's good. On the snatch pull, we're still trying to imitate that snatch deadlift position, but then we're just looking to extend through all of the legs and our shoulders, just making sure we get nice and tall, but with no excessive lean back. So those are 2 little tidbits that will help, hopefully, the full move of the snatch, because then we've got a straight bar path. The bar's then going to end up over the top of us, rather than us swinging it out or us diving out in front of it to chase it. So a couple of key points that a lot of people disregard: the first 2 elements of this complex, and then they're just focused on the snatch. But actually, those first 2 elements are going to help build consistency for the overall lift.
Yeah, those first 2 movements set you up for the good snatches after. And so myself, Steve, and Phil Roy are following the program a week ahead, and we actually did like a similar complex to this yesterday. And what really took me by surprise was how fatigued my legs felt going into those last couple of snatches, especially. So you really had to give it your all on the last snatches to make sure you finished that pull and you were getting under the bar as well. So don't look at this and underestimate it. Give it your all from the start. Make sure you're hitting good positions. And like Jamie said, you'll begin to reap the rewards on the last couple of snatches if you've dialed your bar path in at the start. For the workout, Heartpertrophy.
Yeah, first one in the books. So again, our themes for the block, kind of, we've got our weightlifting complexes, we've got our time under tension, then we've got our capacity, which is Heartpertrophy stuff. You'll see these kind of 3 minutes on, 1 minute off sessions dotted around. We did a test last Friday, as we're speaking now, which was 2 different 3-minute AMRAPs, and these are going to look no dissimilar. This is taken straight from the athlete plan. I think it's next Friday's class for those guys. Small rep scheme, something that you can cycle around. We've included a movement that we've carried on from earlier on the snatching, so it's just a matter of brushing up on your touch and go techers, because the load in here should be light enough for it to go. If you've got anybody that kind of struggles to cycle a barbell, I always firstly look at bringing the load in down. Then we can look to a simpler variation, something like a double dumbbell snatch. For this one would be great. Just something to get the body moving and understanding that the blood's going to be in the legs. It's probably going to stay in the legs a little bit on the snatch, but maybe into the back, and then moving into the upper body, I would say, and the hips on the burpees. So just understanding how that blood's cycling around the body. Few things to note. Obviously, we'll carry on from where we left off on each of the AMRAPs, which I think is important to remember. Otherwise, people that maybe struggle will kind of feel a bit jumping lunged out. So carrying on from where you left off is another thing that we're after on this one.
I think those jumping lunges, some people look at them and think, jumping lunge, pretty easy, especially in this sort of format. That will really get your heart rate up. So it'll be interesting to see in the later rounds people's faces when they realise those jumping lunges are getting pretty hard. Yeah,
they are pretty tough.
Tuesday, we've got a pairs workout.
Yeah.
Two exercises that are very similar kind of in nature, but obviously like totally different at the same time. We've got devil's press mixed together with ring muscle ups. When you wrote this piece, what were you looking for members to get out of it?
So firstly, this was a variation again from the athlete plan, but the variation with this was kind of work to rest ratios. So whenever I see them on the athlete plan, I think, okay, can this be a partner workout? And you're exactly right. I like writing workouts like when you have difficult movements like ring muscle ups and devil's presses, sometimes suffering with a friend makes it more bearable, and the feedback I always tend to get is I always move a little bit quicker when I've got my partner there, and these are two movements that are certainly kind of right up there with you'd go a bit faster if your mate's watching you do them kind of thing. Yeah. So with the run together, that just kind of keeps that overall heart rate ticking in. And then with the devil's press, 2s and 3s, you do want to create a bit of work to rest across this whole session. And then that gives us an opportunity on the ring muscle up. Now, we haven't done these for a little while. We've been focused on through bar muscle up, and we've kind of had them in sporadically. This is a great opportunity. It's a small enough rep scheme with enough time coming around where if we are splitting it down the middle, 5 reps each is, again, done in a couple of doubles and a single, that kind of thing. If we're thinking of like the class level athlete, it's a good opportunity to get what you would consider an RX workout. It's not an Amanda where you're exposed on your own for a 975. This is where you can take attempts in the workout. So I think overall a good opportunity to kind of push the complexity level of the class, because the other movements will keep the intensity right up there for 30 minutes anyway.
Yeah. A good video for coaches to help on the devil's press is that one Trunky did last year. So that's one where he goes through all the different techniques that you can use. So we'll make sure to drop that in on Circle for you guys to check out. When you're going through those ring muscle up drills, obviously you got in this as a scale chest to bar pull-ups, but are you kind of changing how you go through these muscle up drills compared to if ring muscle ups were like more of a focus of the session in more of a skill sense, or will it stay pretty similar to how you usually do it, Jamie?
Good question. I would say within the context of this workout, the only parameter I'd have to be aware of is how long the workout is. Mm-hmm. So the workout's 30 minutes long. So I'd just be conscious of the amount of time I spend on it. But what I would be thinking is like, right, I can do the Hinshaw warm up, or I can do some like kind of quick running drills to get that squared away. The devil's press from a technical aspect and an equipment point of view is quite quick as well. Mm-hmm. So I'd still focus the majority of my time on the skill development aspect of the ring muscle up. Even if you have a member who walks in and they go, I'm not doing the ring muscle up in this workout, I'm going to be a jumping pull-up or a jumping muscle up, still giving them the chance to be exposed to the things they're not good at is good for all of us members. So just making sure that you give yourself enough time and don't just look at your class list and go, right, no one's anywhere near, I'm just going to leave it today, or I'm going to be lazy on it, because someone might have that little spark of interest or that little skill or cue that you've given them to actually get them to then do some extra work in their spare time, come to an open gym, and then all of a sudden, a few weeks down the line, they have a muscle up.
Yeah, awesome. Let's go on to Wednesday then. So this was another kind of focus of this phase, was the front squats. Yep. And this is the second week. So first week it was 5 sets of 5. This week we go 5 sets of 5 again. The goal is to increase the weight, but we've also still got that max rep we know this has worked pretty well in the past.
Yeah.
Is there anything from week one that you would be layering on top of what you maybe set last week, you know, as the standard, or as a skill piece, or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I'd be reminding people of the max rep cap is dropped from 15 to 12, but then I'd also be mentioning, well, how did it feel last week? How did it feel when you started to get tired, or if you did start to lose position? Was it your elbows dropping? Was it a lack of strength? Was it your hips shooting up first? Because if you identify those things, that can be your driver for your set each time. So for instance, if you have that member whose front rack mobility isn't very good, so as they're traveling down, their elbows are dropping, but then you remind them to keep their elbows up and their elbows stay an extra inch higher on this set, on this round for this week, you're going to then see that adaptation hopefully take place. It's going to remind them when they're in workouts that they need to keep their elbows up, and so on and so forth. So just making sure you remind people, like, sometimes it is just an awareness thing. I've had people not realize they go on their toes when they squat. They just don't, they're not aware of it. It's not like, from a coaching point of view, you say, keep weight in your heels, and they've got blinkers on and they're not listening. It's just they're unaware of what their body's actually doing. So we can't, like, I would say I'm fairly aware of what I'm doing when I'm doing it wrong, or if I'm doing it right. Whereas some people don't have that awareness yet. So it's just about giving it to them and reminding them that their chest has to touch the floor on a burpee. Some people are not deliberately cheating. Some people do, but some people don't deliberately cheat. Some people are just unaware of what they're doing. And that's over the years, you can't always assume they're guilty. Presume they're innocent and then prove they're guilty.
Innocent until proven guilty, for sure.
100%.
The workout after. The front squat should set up a lot of people quite nicely for these Wallballs. Especially, I know a lot of people, short people, struggle with, like, or hate Wallballs, always blaming the height as an excuse. There should be a little bit of post-activation potentiation in there. Fancy little phrase for you, just meaning that the Wallballs might feel a little bit lighter than what they're usually used to. So could be a good little confidence boost for those people on the Wallballs for a change. And hopefully, like you said, just build that awareness and be like, oh, maybe some people actually feel a bit more upright than they usually do going onto Wallballs as well, because the front squats have primed them quite nicely.
That's the priority for the AMRAP. We've got the burpee box jumps as a nice little segue. It kind of, they gradually build up, but that's to provide like a little rest in between the Wallballs. And I chose 12 because it was a number that was achievable for quite a lot of members to maintain as unbroken. And then if we think about this as a training session, next time they come to the workout, Karen, are they able to do somewhere between 10 to 15 reps unbroken? I guarantee their time will be quicker. The average CrossFit member will do, for Karen, 150 Wallballs, they'll do somewhere between 15 and 30 reps as their first set. Then they may do a 10 or a 15 at the best, and then they're into single digits. And if you're not over 100 reps and you're into single digits, you're close to a 10, 12 minute Karen. Like, that's where you're going to be. There's no transition life that's going to make that any faster. It's just where it is. So building your confidence on larger sets is something there. And 12 is one of those numbers that, if you can hit 12 most of the time, you're doing all right with Wallballs. Like, you're doing okay. You can hang in there.
Yeah, good. I think a good one to go through going into that workout would be hand placement on the ball as well. I know some people like to hold it directly underneath. Some people like to do it a little bit more on the side, but just being aware of keeping that ball right under your chin, just little things like that. Because like you said before, there's always like little things on movements that, you know, if people are aware of, they can then find what feels best for them. So yeah, cool. On to Thursday. 3 minutes on, 1 minute off.
Yeah.
Similar same format as the Heartpertrophy that we had last week. We've got the max meter row and bike in there, so that will kind of just throw a little bit of a different, different twist on it. But again, this is one of those sessions that does contribute towards improving that Heartpertrophy as well, which was a focus of the phase. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so the intent of this session can be twofold. You can look at it from if someone's training pretty hard earlier in the week, that max meters row becomes not max, it becomes just moving. And then you can look at your skills on the dumbbell, bring the weight of the dumbbell down, and you're just trying to grease the groove. I think you can tell who can move well with dumbbells, and you can tell people who struggle with them. And sometimes that comes down to having a session where you've got small rep schemes, you're able to just keep practicing those movements. So that's kind of it's still a Thursday, and in our kind of overall training week, we do need down days. So this is the day to kind of have a bit of a down day. If you've had someone who hasn't trained much this week, you can go in and hit it pretty hard, and it will have its desired effect as well. So that's why it's in on our Thursday. But yeah, we can get many benefits from a session depending on how we roll it.
Yeah, good. Let's leave Thursday there and get stuck into Friday then. It's Friday. We've got our second toes to bar time and attention session. And scoring this, we should be looking ultimately to increase the amount of toes to bar we do week upon week, and increase the amount of time we're doing that first movement. Is there anything that you found going through these time and attention sessions, Jamie, that you feel is important to make people aware of as well? Again, either as a coach or when actually doing them.
I think it kind of comes under the banner of both. I think initially I learned it from doing it, and then it's trying to get people to understand the hustle between movements. It's okay, you need to move quickly, you need to have your workstation set up appropriately, so then you can transition from one movement into the other within a couple of breaths. That's the intent. If that means that you lose 2 or 3 reps on that movement, so be it. We're rather than thinking, okay, my score on, for this instance, the double leg V-ups would be 3 more if I waited an extra 5 seconds. I'd much rather you lose those 3 reps. And like you said, Jack, our score is that main movement off the top end. The priority for this session, if you notice, has changed. Week 1, we looked at a more grip endurance, interference, and we were looking to develop that. And we're doing the chest to bar variation at the minute, and that was the one thing I noticed. After some chest to bar, I jumped up to then just do some chin over the bars, and I was like, okay, be really focused on not falling off this pull-up bar. So yeah, same kind of thing here. With this is our midline based variation. We actually did this when we were up when we were at train, and the V-ups were humbling to say the least. I'd say I'd back myself to do 5 times as many toes to bar as I did V-ups, and the med ball slams weren't much nicer either. So pretty tough session, but that would be my advice. Hustle between the moves.
Good, I like it. One extra little point just to add is that on the med ball slams, make sure people are leaning back ever so slightly, so it's putting that tension on the abs, because again, the focus of this is to really fatigue the abs. We need that little bit of a lean back, because that would be like the arch in the kip, and again, we want to be able to control that position there as well. So mimicking that with med ball slams is super important. We've got some handstand accessory work as well. Don't want to go into too much detail on this, but you've just got a couple of different variations, like facing the wall, not facing the wall, and that's just going to help people become aware of when to use the fingers, when to try and push through the heel of the hands a little bit more. So I would be looking at focusing on those areas when you're doing the different handstand variations there. Let's go on Saturday. This chunky part of the workout looks great.
Yeah, it's written by yours truly. We wanted some weightlifting complex work in, and I think I programmed Macho Man when we did the regionals. So maybe I'm just a bit of a macho man. But yeah, definitely not. I thought, okay, what's going to help complement our complex of our 3-2-1? Well, why don't we do 3-3-3? And then I was thinking, rather than doing it as a standalone strength piece, I was like, okay, well, let's add some fatigue to that, and then let's add some intensity and a bit of fun around it. So that's how the You Go, I Go partner variation was born. And then to kind of increase the difficulty, if we think of how this workout will go across 20 minutes, it will start with our high intensity. We're moving quickly on the burpees. The loading is light. Both you and your partner will do 2 rounds of this complex, so 4 sets total, and then you'll look to go heavier. And I'd probably suggest that the first 2 weights on the barbell are going to be manageable weights. Okay, so the 60 and the 70 or the 40 and the 45 should be weights that you pick up, you go unbroken, you're thinking, right, I can do a round of DT unbroken, I can certainly do a round of 3-3-3 unbroken, and then I can get back to my burpees pretty quickly. If that's not the case, let's look at reducing the loading. It is a slightly different intensity with the front squats being in there. I always feel as soon as you start going below parallel, and it starts to change the game a little bit. If you find that it really fatigues your shoulder to overhead, that's something to work on, is front squats into jerks. So something to highlight there. I certainly know that for me, my shoulder to overhead in isolation is fine. As soon as you add some squatting in, I lack the prerequisite leg drive.
Mm-hmm. Again, 2 birds, one stone here. Like you said, I think important to start off these complexes going touch and go. And when you get to the moderate kind of weights, try and go touch and go for 2 of the power cleans, then drop it if you need to, hold on for, through the front squats if you can. Just being a little bit clever with how you break it up, but still getting a little bit of barbell cycling work. And then obviously as it gets to the final weights, breaking it up that little bit more. Obviously as well, with the front squats and into the shoulder to overhead, there's a little bit of, upper body to lower body, Heartpertrophy kind of mix through there as well. So that's great as well. Anything else on Saturday? I think just making sure we get a good barbell workout, warm up in.
Yeah, lots of time. So we've got 20 minutes as an AMRAP, and you want to spend a good amount of time going through our clean warm up as we normally would. So just making sure people in there have got the power clean dialed in. Are we having the conversation on? I'd probably say these power cleans, you want to maintain your hook grip throughout all of them, because if you do that, it just means that you can cycle into the next rep. And then from there, if you find when you get to the later weights, when you stand out of your last front squat, do you stand enough to then take a full grip and then go straight into your first push jerk? And I would probably say most of these shoulder to overheads should be push jerks. You can go to the split jerk if you are really struggling, but those are the small tidbits that will help the more advanced member. And remember, at the end of the day, you've got a beginner who will just be slow and steady, but then you've also got that aspiring competitor who will probably be quite a vocal member in the gym. And if you're not giving them enough in a class, that's where they want their own individual programming. They want the open gym time because they feel like they don't get the value from their classes. And ultimately, that's the coach's responsibility to give value to every single person. So I'm fortunate enough that we've had games athletes do classes, so you understand you still have to give them the service, and then you have the beginner, and everyone has the beginners as well. So
awesome. On to Sunday, and to wrap the week up, obviously at the moment we've not got any like posterior strength work. That's not a particular focus at the moment, but also important to be able to accumulate some reps, evens out the squatting a little bit more from earlier on in the week. So super simple to start, just a 10-minute EMOM, 10 dumbbell deadlifts. It will get spicier than what people anticipate, I think. Things I would be covering going into this is like hinging well, using, you know, the hamstrings and the glutes as much as possible. But also, again, especially with it being a Sunday workout, I'd be getting people to just put the feet in slightly different positions as well. So they're using slightly different muscles. So it's not just, you know, hitting the same stance every time. We kind of go left foot forward, right foot forward, slightly wider, slightly narrower than usual. Again, because you're never going to get in the perfect setup every time when you're doing a workout. So sometimes it's good to practice different positions there as well.
Totally. If we notice in the notes with these dumbbell deadlifts, we've gone for the extra range as well. So if you can touch both heads of that dumbbell on the floor and keep the dumbbell horizontal, is the best way to describe it, it's a game changer. That extra range of motion is not what you get with the barbell. It's an extra demand on the body. So qualify it with the members. What I mean by that is if you feel like the member wants to do that range, but they haven't earned that range, make sure you scale them down by either tipping, so the front end of the dumbbells touch, or you can even stack up the weight plates. So then they're still holding them flat, but then they're just reducing that range of motion. Because I mean, I've done this session a couple of times. I remember doing it with Ben, and I remember really struggling to walk for the next few days. I'd say my posterior chain's not that good either, but yeah, just that extra range of motion really smoked me, and all it needed was 45 kilos worth of weight, and it made me pretty sore.
Awesome. I don't want to touch too much on the workout either. Again, similar kind of Heartpertrophy session, just a slightly different format of one on, one off. Yeah, let's leave it there. Plenty of information we've dropped on everyone. There's little bits we can that everyone can take away for each session. So yeah, perfect. All right then. Right, team. Make sure you get on Circle if you haven't already signed up.
We've frozen just at the end.
Oh no. Are we back on? No? Yeah. Get on Circle if you've not already, and we'll catch you next week.